Welcome to the Window Wisdom Podcast, your guide to replacement windows and more. Hi, I'm your host, Ted Kirk, and this is episode number 25. Today, we've got a special guest with us, David Kelly, and David is our senior service technician here at North Georgia Replacement Windows, and we're going to be talking about some of the common service issues that David may experience with windows and doors. So welcome to the podcast, David.
Thank you, Ted. It's good to be here.
Well, before we get started, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and, describe your job here at North Georgia.
So like Ted said, I'm David. What I do here at North Georgia is I'm the senior service technician. So I handle all the service warranty issues or anything that happens with broken parts or things like that and ordering those. About myself, I like hiking and I like working on doors and windows.
And you like to play golf too?
I do like to play golf. I like a lot of golf.
Well, glad to have you on the podcast. So a lot of people may not realize this, but North Georgia Replacement Windows actually has a lifetime service warranty. And that's a pretty big deal because that means that we are servicing all the windows that we've ever put in over the past 17 years. So, David, have you ever given anybody a bill for a window service?
Not a single bill whatsoever.
Well, that's great. And the reason that you're probably so busy and that we've actually grown to actually have more than one service technician now is because we used to offer 27 different models of windows.
Right.
And you get to experience all that, right?
You do. It's been a ordeal trying to learn about all of these different windows over the last couple of years. And, I've been here for 2 years with North Georgia and learning about all these different styles and types of windows that we used to sell and having to service them has been just tremendous in knowledge.
I know it's a challenge. And the reason just, for our listeners that we had switched all 100% to the Infinity from Marvin fiberglass window is because of the durability. And because we do offer that lifetime service warranty, we just did not want to stay in this vicious cycle of having to handle some of these service issues that we've already gotten ourselves into. So, David, can you tell us what are some of these issues that you're seeing on some of these various different types of windows?
So a lot of the issues that we see in service issues with windows, and it typically comes from the windows that we don't sell anymore. We don't have a lot with Infinity, but we see a lot
Mainly vinyl,
because of warping with vinyl. Vinyl has a funny way of warping over time, especially with climate change and things. For us, here in Georgia, we have high heat. And so that has a role to play.
Oh, it's intense.
It's
intense
extremely
heat and
intense.
cold. I think we're actually having record temperatures today.
I believe we are. And that's going to, really probably have some problems. We may even have a call today on it.
So when these windows warp, what typically happens?
So when these windows warp, a lot of times it messes up. It's like on our double hung units, which is the most common window that there is in a home. It can mess up the balances. It can mess up the locks.
So they're not operating correctly.
They're not going to operate over time with warping.
What about leakage?
Leaking with vinyl windows is a huge problem that we run into because what they have on vinyl windows and other windows that we've sold in the past, they have a glazing bead on the exterior. And so that glazing bead will fail over time and allow moisture and water to come in. So we see a lot of seal failure in glass because of water and moisture. That's
the foggy glass.
Yes.
So when you take out that glazing bead, then you can actually replace the glass. That's quite a process, huh?
Yes. And that's the process with other companies that we deal with on a service related thing is if we go out and we see a window that has spotting and we have to replace that. So what those companies are going to do, they're going to send us what we call an IGU, which is just the glass. So we have to go out there, we have to completely tear apart and deconstruct that window to get the glazing off, to put the glass in, re-glaze that. What Infinity's done is Infinity doesn't have a glazing bead.
It's a one-piece design.
It's a one-piece design.
So they send the whole sash.
They send the entire sash. If there ever is. And with my 2 years here with North Georgia, I have replaced at least 200 windows or just pieces of glass from other manufacturers. I have not yet found an Infinity window with seal failure.
Well, and that's a great point. And the reason for that, just for our listeners, the fiberglass frame is actually made from the same material that the glass is made from. and it's what we call thermoset, which basically means that heat and cold does not affect it. Where, these other composite windows, PVC, vinyl, Fibrex, they are what we call thermoplastics, and they can definitely move with heat and cold. And oftentimes that leads to some of these various failures that we're talking about. So, the other thing that I know when I used to take a lot of calls and I hear some customer complaints on these various windows is those glazing strips or beads that hold the glass in, often they would get mucked up with mold and mildew that over time would just stain them, and they couldn't be cleaned off, and it was very unsightly. People could see it from the inside, but our hands were tied because that's an environmental condition. It's something that we could not fix. Is just something that happens naturally. So I'm glad that our new and fiberglass windows, they don't have that part and piece. But you experience a good bit of that?
I've experienced a lot of that, especially recently. Just went out to a job last week where we had to deal with multiple windows on a house, and it was because of just the placement of the windows. On one side of the house, completely in the shade, no sunlight. They just hold a ton of moisture, and that's the issue. And like you said, our hands are tied. But thankfully, with Infinity, we don't ever have to run into that.
That's great. Well, and to be fair, I wouldn't say we don't ever have any issues, but what are, some of the things that you've kind of run into lately with Infinity windows?
Well, we've actually had a few issues with some of the locks on our double hungs on Infinity lately, in probably the last month or so, with the top locks.
So new issue you're encountering, and I'm glad you brought that up. You're probably not even aware of this, David, but I actually had a call because it did come up with the senior management at Infinity from Marvin, and they actually found out that their hardware vendor had a manufacturing problem where the piece of equipment that they were using wasn't fully seating the locks. And they didn't find out about it right away because everything looked fine, but then the lock would come apart. That has since been fixed. They provided us all the service parts to do that. It's and you tell me, I would think it's a pretty simple fix.
It's
right?
a very simple fix. Like you said, Infinity has done a great job of helping us with our relationship, and they care about helping us take care of our customers. That fix right there is a 3 to 5 minute fix to get those changed.
So temporary problem, things happen.
Absolutely.
They fixed it. They found out it happened.
It's going to be taken care of.
All right. Well, good. So anything else with the Infinity window that you typically run into?
Some of the things that we run into, window sashes coming out of the balance. That's just poor operation of the window. And, that's
user error.
Yeah. And, that's one thing that typically we can handle just over the phone when a customer calls in.
And that can happen with any window. And typically the way windows work, these new type of windows, no matter what type you get, they typically tilt into clean. So when you hold them at 90 degrees, most of the sashes, you can actually lift them out. So if you're ever going to clean your window, clean it at less than 90 degrees or greater than 90 degrees, and then that sash is actually locked into that balance system. So if that doesn't make sense, I think you made a video on it.
We did make a video. Okay. It is on our website.
All right, great. So, well, people would also know that we do doors. So what are some of the issues that you typically see with some of the doors? We do, entry doors and patio doors, bifolding doors, et cetera. So any recommendations for homeowners, and what are some of the, typical issues you run into there?
So typically we see two big things with doors, and it doesn't happen a ton, but we can see it. One with, settling of doors, foundations in houses settle over time. And when a door is installed, over time it can move to where, panels, maybe if you have a French style double door entry, they'll rub against each other. It's typically an easy fix to come out and re-anchor that and move those panels out. And leaking would be another thing. If you have, your threshold's not cleaned out, or your weather stripping is torn or ripped at all, not in the right place, you can see a lot of leaking with stuff like that.
What about the finish of the doors?
Finish of doors is one thing that we want to make sure that customers are looking at and keeping an eye on. Your top coat, if you have a stained door, is something that you want to make sure that you keep intact, that you always watch out for that, because if your top coat goes out, especially in high heat situations, it can really mess up that door.
So let me just be clear. Infinity does not do entry doors. Marvin does not do entry doors. So most of the stain doors that you're talking about are entry doors. And so the Infinity doors actually have a commercial rated finish. You don't have to paint those. You can paint them if you want, but typically we would not ever really see those problems with the Infinity doors. So, also, David, I know that installation materials are as important as the product itself. Can you talk about some of the failures maybe that you see out there? I know we've tried to improve and stay on top of that technology, but can you speak to that just a little bit?
Absolutely. You know, like you said, there, you know, we don't always have issues with Infinity at all. It's very rare, but sometimes we do, and it can be an installation related thing. You know, we see it within Infinity doors. If a door itself is not completely level, plumb, squared out during the install, we can see a lot of what we call ghost swing in a door, where that door is just going to open or close by itself. And, you know, we as a company make sure that gets taken care of. We always come back out and take care of our customer and get that fixed. But one of the things with Infinity that we see with their doors is they have adjustable hinges. So anytime that, like we talked about, you know, foundations and houses and things settling, we can fix those things with doors by coming out and adjusting the hinges.
Yeah,
and
that hinge adjusts 6 ways to Sunday, doesn't it?
It does, and that's typically an easy fix. It's a 10 to 15 minute process to come out and do that, and most of the time that we're out there, it's just talking to the customer while we're working on it, you know, and they're so intrigued that Infinity has come up with this option in this product with their hinges to be able to adjust them like that. It's not something that you see in the industry.
Yeah, it's very well engineered. Well, in addition to the product, the installation and the materials used for the installation are just as important to your project. The flashing, the water management.
The water management that we deal with, whether we have to flash that, what we use is we always tape our windows. So we use butyl tape to make sure on our seals that even if water does get behind the window or under the window in any way, it's going to escape.
It's protected. It's not getting into the walls.
It's not going to get into the walls. It's not going to get into the house.
And we typically use OSI sealants. There are some exceptions, you know, where we'll use you know, different sealants depending on home orientation and colors and stuff. But when we use those OSI sealants and we use the type of butyl flashing that we do and put the rot-proof trim and the foam injection that we do, we actually give customers a 15-year rider warranty on the sealant that the material manufacturer OSI actually provides. So that's unheard of, and that's in addition to our lifetime service warranty, because typically sealant's not something that any company covers. It's going to break down over time, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, most sealant companies don't do that, you know, and for us, with the way that we install our windows, from our foam, like you said, to our sealants, everything is water resistant. Our foam is water resistant. So we're creating a barrier.
Yeah, closed cell foam.
Moisture out. And it is awesome that we have that relationship with OSI with that 15-year warranty. You know, with these color match sealants, it just makes it easier to finish out a project and not necessarily have to paint every time, and know that OSI is going to be back behind us to help us if we do ever run into issues.
Well, and speaking of them, I know that they came in, did a training. We actually recertified all of our guys and our project managers and service technicians. You know, the AMA experience. How was that? I know you did that this week.
We did, yeah. So we had 2 days this week where we were in the AMA certification course. And it was definitely some long days, but good content, really good content to understand. And, you know, I learned some things that I necessarily didn't know going into it. And it was a really good experience to be able to see how different places and different people install windows and how we install windows, and was able to share those stories back and forth with each other and get that training. And it's been great. You know, we took it as a privilege that North Georgia, you know, allowed us to have that training to further our experiences.
Well, did you pass your test?
We haven't got the scores yet,
All right.
But we're hoping for it.
All right. Well, great. Well, David, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We'll start wrapping this up, but just tell us what do you like about your job working here, man?
Just working for North Georgia has been a true blessing in my life, and just the people here. It comes down from the ownership to management to just working with my peers and having that family, experience here. At the end of the day, when I go home, I know that I was able to take care of a customer, and I know that I was able to help somebody. And that's the biggest thing that gives me drive. And that's the biggest thing that I love working about and with North Georgia is, we all give that customer experience.
Well, thank you, David. That's great to hear. And for people that really don't know, David is actually a vocalist, sings at his church. And David, can you at least maybe sing the jingle for the customers?
All right. Well, sure. North Georgia replacement windows, yeah.
All right. Thanks, David.